there are some sayings from Jesus that are warm and comforting and familiar that we return to over and over because of the warm fuzzies they give us. Come to me, all you who are weary and carrying heavy burdens, and I will give you rest. Let the little children come unto me. Lo, I am with you always, even to the very end of the ages. But there are other things he says that make us a little uncomfortable, at least me uncomfortable. Go, sell everything you have and give the money to the poor, and then come follow me. Anyone who loves their father or mother more than me is not worthy of me. And then there's today's reading. Let the children be fed first, for it's not fair to take the children's food and throw it to the dogs. This comment is very shocking. Is Jesus implying that Gentiles are like dogs? It's a really strange thing for him to say, considering in the previous passage he's just condemned the hypocrisy of some of his listeners when they are clinging too hard to human thoughts and human traditions rather than obeying the commands of God and loving all people. The animosity between Jews and Gentiles had been a very long-standing human tradition and one that Jesus often seemed to preach against. So what a strange comment for him to make. I wanted to figure out more. So I investigated some commentaries, trying to figure out what in the world might he have been thinking when he made this comment. And I found that some scholars interpret this moment as Jesus testing the woman's faith. So he says this unexpected thing just to see how she would respond, to see how deep her faith went. And he is pleased by her answer, so he heals her daughter without even laying eyes on her, and the woman goes off on her way. But to me, that's not a very satisfying answer. Other scholars suggest that maybe this is Jesus' one of his more human moments, that maybe he, as a devout Jew, is sort of struggling with the idea that his ministry is to all people, including the Gentiles. This explanation also doesn't really fully satisfy. In fact, none of the reading I did gave me an explanation that really satisfied me. So I thought, okay, his words don't make a ton of sense. Let's look at his actions. What does he actually do in this story? Well, he does heal her daughter. He doesn't have to lay eyes on her or touch her like he does in some of the other healing stories. And then after this, he heals a deaf man in the sight of all these witnesses, and this is more consistent with the Jesus that I know and love, healing people and caring for them. And what's interesting to note is both of these miracle healings took place in Gentile territories. So whatever Jesus' comment about the children and the dogs, whatever that means, he's still ministering to the Gentiles and performing miracles and healings among them, just like he does in Jewish territories. Whatever his internal thoughts are, it didn't change how he treated them, the actions he did around them. And this whole encounter is another example of Jesus acting sort of strangely, very counter-culturally. The fact that this woman talks to him at all and initiates a conversation is a little strange. And that he talks back to her is a little strange. It goes against some of the social norms of the time. Instead of ignoring her or shunning her when she asked for help, he had a dialogue with her, listened. And she gave a compelling argument, so he healed her daughter. So part of me wonders if maybe Jesus said this out of character thing to sort of echo maybe what some of the people around him might have been thinking. Like maybe that was the idea of some of his disciples, and he's using this as a teaching moment by saying sort of the expected thing and then flip-flopping. He's sort of modeling to them, here's how I think this woman should be treated, respectfully and with equality. Fairly revolutionary idea at his time. Maybe the actions of the others in the story are also easier to understand and have something to teach us too. This Syrophoenician woman has captivated theologians and seminary professors for centuries because she did something amazing. She changed Jesus' mind. This is an understanding of faith that we might not always appreciate. Her faith was not passive, but active, like Jacob wrestling with the angel until he received a blessing. She was verbally wrestling with Jesus until he decided to bless her daughter. It's a strange idea to think about Jesus or God. Jesus changing his mind, God changing his mind. But Moses does it several times in the Old Testament. Goes to God and says, please don't kill everyone. And God doesn't. What would it be like to have a faith like that? To take our doubts and fears and questions to God and to wrestle with them until we receive a blessing. In the season of creation, the theme for today is learn. And all week I was trying to learn more about this Syrophoenician woman and Jesus' odd interaction with her. And I wonder too what we can learn from this woman who changed God's mind, and from Jesus, who was open to a perspective that may have been different than his own. And what does it all have to do with creation? First, I might wonder if there are certain views that we as individuals or a church or a society might hold about God's creation that we might need to reconsider or let go of. What does it mean to own land? What is our responsibility to the land we own? Here at St. Anthony's, we have a landscape design team, and they're working on a future vision for our landscape that includes lots of new flowers and pollinator-friendly plants. You might have heard that we're in a bit of a crisis with the bees and the pollinators. We need them. We need trees to breathe and plants to produce oxygen. And to have those, we need pollinators. Our life depends on the life of God's creation, both plants and animals alike. We might wonder, too, what is our responsibility to the people who might have been on this land before us? The whole Episcopal Church is working with indigenous people and indigenous nations to try to right the wrongs of the past. We include a land acknowledgement in our bulletin, but what else might we owe to the indigenous peoples of our area? I'm not sure I know the answer, but I know it's a question worth asking. What about resources like water or fossil fuels? Some estimates suggest we might run out of fossil fuels by the year 2060 if we continue mining and consuming them at the current rate. So that's oil, gas, coal. Could run out of them in my lifetime. Stanford theorizes that we will run out of oil in 30 years, gas in 40 years, and coal in 70 years. So how might we as a church community use more clean energy and do our part to use less of these finite resources? Again, I'm not sure I know the answer, but I know it's a question worth asking. What if we might learn a little about faith from the Syrophoenician woman? And instead of feeling defeated and overwhelmed by our circumstances, instead we challenge it and change it. We might hear that many natural resources are running out, that many species are dying off, but we are Christians, We are people of resurrection. We notice the life and death and nature around us, and we believe that death never has the final word. So together, let's wrestle. Wrestle with this reality that we are in. And instead of just accepting it, we'll do our own part to try to change it. Amen.